I'm Elizabeth Henson. Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast, where I'm helping creative dreamers and overachievers tackle business and life. After 6 years of being my own boss, I finally unraveled a tiny bit of what it takes to survive in this amazing world of being an overly creative entrepreneur. I'm your business bestie, here to help you with all those big ideas and to normalize some of the day-to-day struggles that we all share. My mission is simple. I want more women to make a living doing what they love and to feel good about themselves in the process. The best way to start? We can't do it alone. So welcome. I hope you'll hang out with me here where it's totally okay to be messy. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. I am your host, Elizabeth Henson, here with you at the Messy Success Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I kind of on a whim took last week off. It just was super overwhelming week. You guys know that 2019 has been my year of better scheduling, but last week was my first little oopsie diddly do. I don't know why I said that like that. Anyway, so I'm back this week with a really exciting interview. I can't wait to introduce our guest, Elli. But I did want to let you guys know that my birthday was over the weekend. I got a brand new computer, the 27-inch iMac, which I thought was going to be overkill. I was like, this is too big. This isn't necessary. You know, my husband was just trying to convince me to go ahead and do it. And I'm so glad that I did. Now I can record the podcast on one computer and read all my notes on the other computer without having to click back and forth. This is life-changing for me. I'm really excited about it. But I'm also in transition, moving my office because, you know, my current office is going to be the nursery. So I'm moving my office into our room over the garage. So if things sound a little clunky or different, it's because I'm not in my usual habitat. But I'm so excited to be here today. We have an amazing copywriter here today with us. Her name is Elli Runkles. I met her through my dear friend Raina, who is a business coach and knows so many amazing creative people. I emailed Raina and I was like, girlfriend, I need to step out of my comfort zone. I am kind of staying in my happy little bubble. You know, I'm the queen of networking, but I really just need to meet some new people. And she sent me this fabulous list of ladies that I was able to reach out to, knowing that they were good people, that they were, you know, awesome, creative, ambitious women, because Raina sent them to me. So Elli was on that list and I automatically fell in love with her brand and her messaging. She's young, she's spunky, she lives in Spain. I'm so excited for you to meet her. So let me tell you a little bit about her business. So Elli is a sales and launch copywriter for coaches and creative entrepreneurs. Her website is ellirunkles.com. And she's the creator of the Copywriter On Call program. You guys are going to hear more about this in the interview. It's so innovative and different. I'm so excited for her. She helps her clients all the way from solopreneurs to seven-figure business owners harness the power of written words in order to boldly declare their value and attract more of their ideal clients. She has some really good stuff for you guys today. Elli is on a mission to empower women business owners to banish the fear of being salesy, guilty, I struggle with that, and learn how to use copywriting to sell with ease and empathy. So this has been such a struggle for me. You guys know that one of the reasons why I podcast is because I don't really love to write. I have a lot of insecurities around writing sales copy. So I've been getting a lot of help and a lot of education on that this year. And I'm really excited for you guys to meet Elli. We're going to dig in and talk about her business and her journey to Spain and her Copywriter On Call program. So let's go ahead and get started with Elli. And she's going to be joining us inside the Shine the Light Society as our guest expert this month on May 21st. And if you guys haven't heard, the doors are going to be opening again to the Shine the Light Society just shortly after that on May 24th. But when you join, you actually get access to the most recent workshops. So if you guys decide to join the Shine the Light Society for only $29, you will get access to our hands-on private workshop with Elli. So that's super exciting. I'll recap that all at the end, but I did want to let you guys know that this isn't the first time you're going to hear from her, and she's going to be inside our membership. So I'm so excited to bring her in now for real this time. Let's meet Elli. Hey, Elli, how are you? I'm so excited to have you with us today on the Messy Success Podcast.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
So I told everyone a little bit about you in the intro, but can you tell us about yourself and how you got started in your business?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I am a sales and launch copywriter, and I work with coaches and creative entrepreneurs. But my journey to starting my business, I've been in business for about a year, but this journey started about 6 years ago when I graduated from college and decided that instead of going out and getting a quote unquote real job, I was going to move to Spain. I graduated with a degree in Spanish, and all I knew was that I didn't want to be a Spanish teacher and I didn't want to get a corporate job. And so I decided to move to Spain for what was going to be 1 year. And then that has led to lots of different things. But essentially, I ended up getting a master's degree in Spain, which has a very, very high unemployment rate, and the job market is almost non-existent. And so when I started applying for jobs, I realized, I'm applying for essentially unpaid internships for 40 hours a week. And really, I think I could do this on my own and make a lot more money than I would be working for a Spanish company. And so that's kind of the long and winding road that led to this business.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So I knew you were in Spain, but I don't think I realized that you had been there all 6 years.
Yeah. So I've been here about 6 years now. And like I said, I've kind of done a lot of different things. I taught English for a while. I did my master's, and then now ended up starting this business. But yeah, it's been about 6 years now.
Yeah. So you kind of always knew that you wanted to somehow work for yourself. Like you didn't envision yourself working for somebody else.
No. And I think I've kind of in some sense always seen myself as an entrepreneur or seen myself going down this path in some way. But yeah, I've kind of always had it clear that the 9-to-5 corporate was not going to be my thing.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because that's kind of similar to me. I just always pictured that as my future. And, it's like the entrepreneurs kind of fall into two categories, either like, you're built that way and you're not built for the system. So you're trying to figure it out. And then there's the people that it literally falls into their lap and they're like, I had no idea that this was going to be my life. I think it's so interesting to hear how people kind of got from point A to point B.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting to me to hear. Because it is, you're right. It's one of those two stories. It's either I've always known or surprise, this path just kind of fell on me. But yeah, I love hearing people's kind of, I guess, entrepreneurial origin stories.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm so excited to dive into this conversation because I feel like copy is definitely something that I struggle with. I know that there's a lot of anxiety around writing good copy, especially when it comes to sales pages and launching. I mean, a lot of us, we kind of free for all and we blog here and there, but when it comes to actually writing the copy that represents your business, that represents the heart thing that you're trying to sell, I think that myself and my listeners have a ton of anxiety around this. So I'm really excited to dive in. So the first thing we're going to start with is I want to hear what are the most common mistakes that you see in people's copy?
Yeah, so this is a big one. There are a lot of kind of go-to things that I see, but the two, I guess, main mistakes that I see are either assuming that you know what your ideal clients want or need, without actually going out and asking them, and forgetting to focus on that ideal client. That, I think, is the main mistake that I see people making. And it's not necessarily even a mistake in terms of when you think about writing, the words that you're using or things like that, but it's literally about whether or not you're listening to your ideal clients and whether or not you're talking or speaking or writing in a way that really resonates with them. I see a lot of people kind of making assumptions about this is what I think people need. And so this is what I'm going to create. And then this is how I'm going to talk about it. When really, if you kind of slow down and listen and kind of hear the words that your ideal clients are using, and actually, one, it makes your copy a lot easier to write and a lot more effective because you're literally repeating back to them the words that they are already using to talk about your industry or your topic.
That's so true. And I think one of my most mind-blowing experiences with this was um, I knew I needed to get some feedback from my people, and I decided to just ask in my Insta stories, like, what do you picture Elizabeth as the go-to expert in? And, I was like, oh gosh, like, what are they going to say? Are they going to say photography? Are they going to say like all these things that are not necessarily what I'm trying to sell at this moment? But, funny, they all said something to do with community, networking, like helping people with business, empowering women. And it was very in alignment with how I was hoping that they would view me. But when I started telling people that I did that, they're like, it's that easy? You can just ask people?
Yeah, and people don't realize you can do that, but I think that my clients they appreciate it, but they're also like, Ellie, you're sending me another questionnaire because I ask for feedback all the time, and a lot of that is because I want to make sure that like my clients are getting the results that they're after, and things are working well for them. But also it gives me so many like words to use when I go to write the copy for the next thing. I've literally got my ideal clients, like my actual clients, telling me like, these are the things that I love about working with you, these are the things that I was struggling with, these are like, this is how you've helped me. And talking to like my actual people and hearing their words, it makes such a huge difference in again, like I said, the ease of writing your copy and the effectiveness of it.
I love that. Okay, so let's take that one step farther for the people listening. And if they could go on Instagram today and ask their audience like one thing, I know everybody's industry is different. Everybody's selling something different, but do you have kind of like a go-to question that might help somebody today if they just wanted to go ask their audience something?
Yeah, actually, this is something that I've actually added to all of my questionnaires, like my intake questionnaires and things like that. But I think it's something you could probably ask on Instagram too. But I've added the question like, why do you follow me, and what resonates most with you, or like what resonates with you most? And it's so insightful to hear from your audience, like what they think about you and why they're following you. And sometimes it's what you might expect or want, and other times it's totally different. But it really helps you to kind of see what your audience is thinking and feeling.
That's amazing. I feel like I need to go do that. That is amazing. That's a really bold question, but there's no reason why we should be afraid or hesitant to ask those things. Like, that's how we grow. That's how we learn about our audience and what they see in us. I love that.
Yeah, I felt the same way. This was actually a tip from a business friend of mine who gave me this idea to add that question about why do you follow me? And I felt nervous the first time I sent out a questionnaire with that included. But I mean, so far I've gotten like, nobody's complained about that question. Nobody's, and I've gotten, pretty positive responses. So I think, people don't realize that you can ask those questions, but it reveals so much. And honestly, I think it helps you provide a better service to your clients too.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask, did you get any feedback that was like mind-blowing or wildly reassuring?
Yeah, just a lot, because I've put out new services lately where I am doing more teaching and educating rather than just, writing the copy for clients. And so that it's been really nice to kind of have that reassurance that like people do not just appreciate me writing the copy for them, but that I am an effective teacher and that they are learning from me. And so that's been really reassuring for me as well.
I love that. Yeah. So I've definitely been pretty hardcore pivoting myself from just like wedding photographer into the educational space. So I can totally relate to kind of that, like, are they still going to be interested?
Exactly.
Okay. So a lot of creative people listen to this podcast. So I would love to hear you give some tips to creative women who are in a space where they're having to DIY all their own copy.
Yeah. So my biggest tip is, like what I've said about, focusing on listening to your people, using their words. But on top of that, my biggest tip, especially for creatives, would be to remember that you do not have to reinvent the wheel, because I think as creatives, it's easy because I consider myself a creative too. And it's really easy to kind of get all the ideas and all the things that you're thinking about and like ideas bouncing around. And it's really hard to like narrow that down and focus and kind of hone that into one finished thing a lot of times. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to writing copy, remember that like there are so many templates and formulas and examples for like how to actually structure the page when you're writing copy. And when you follow those templates and when you follow like a set structure for your writing, it allows you to get creative within that structure, if that makes sense. So like you don't have to completely start from a blank slate, because that looks really intimidating, right? To just be looking at a blank page that you have to then like fill in with this like wonderful, like magical copywriting. But if you start with some kind of structure, like there are tons and tons of templates out there, and then use that as a base, then you can get creative and fill it in with your ideal client's words without having to completely start from scratch.
That's so true. I always relate this to painting when I was an art teacher because, if you give a kid a blank canvas and you say, okay, go be creative, go create something, they're wildly overwhelmed and they don't know what to create. And then they're not happy with what they create. But if I say, okay, here is your, canvas that measures 5 by 5, and here's the color palette you have to use, and then you need to create something that represents blah, blah, blah. It's like all of a sudden the path has been made so much easier for them to create, something beautiful. So that's so true about like the blank piece of paper. Like it's so overwhelming to be like, okay, let me just write the perfect sales page.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Do you have templates that are available? We're going to talk about that at the end, but do you specifically have some?
Yeah, I have a checklist for sales page specifically that you can go and get on my website. It's ellirunkles.com/checklist, and that's free, that you can go and download. And that's a sales page checklist that just kind of goes through like the sections that you need to include on your sales page and kind of more or less what to include in each of those sections. And then you can get creative within that, but you don't have to completely start from a blank slate.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. All right. So let's see. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to figure out what makes them unique? I love this question because it was kind of my topic of the month in April of, just really nailing down what we can say when somebody asks us that question. And I'm sure it's just as important to be able to nail that in copy as well.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of the things we've talked about already really kind of relate to this, but that just, adding that question we talked about why do you follow me, and what resonates with you about what I'm doing. I think that helps a lot with seeing how your audience sees you as unique. And another thing is just, thinking about what you enjoy, the things that you enjoy. I really, truly believe that if you love doing something, it's for a reason. And, that's part of what makes you unique. And if you love doing something, you're going to be better at it, I guess, than the things that you don't love doing or the things that really feel like an energy drain. And so I think just like paying attention to that, like which parts of your work really light you up. And that is probably your thing. Like that's the thing that makes you unique.
Yes, I love that because it does. Our passions tend to, I think, pull out, what, like the work we're really trying to do in the world, like, and of course, like TV shows and shopping and all that stuff is important. But I always try to challenge people to dig a little bit deeper, like, what are their unpopular beliefs or, what are some things that can really separate you or wow, somebody else with our story, like not just the what we do, but the why we do it. So I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so do you have any like tips for staying organized? We always are talking about like the work-life balance, and you're not married and you don't have kids, right?
No, yeah, no kids, no husband, nothing like that.
Okay, so funny, interesting thing that we've been talking about lately is a lot of times the people who struggle the most with time management are actually those that have too much time. So I would love to hear kind of your thoughts since you're doing this full time and you're, staying organized and all of that. Like what would you tell people who have trouble keeping it all together?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've actually had this conversation with several people lately, both who do and don't have kids, but that idea that when you have kids and you have somebody else's schedule that you have to pay attention to, it actually makes you more productive because you have to fit your work into a certain time frame. And so that's something that I hadn't realized until having these conversations, but it is something that I struggle with as someone who kind of has a pretty open schedule. I can kind of start my work day at any time and end my work day at any time. And so a lot of times that means the work day just drags on and on and on, right? So yeah, all that to say, I have lately, as it's been kind of becoming more aware for me, I've started really trying to put those restraints on my time and really plan out like, this is what I want to accomplish today. And this is all I want to accomplish today. Like when I get these things done, I'm going to stop, because I definitely have gone through phases where I would cram like a million things into my week. Like these are the things that I want to get done. And then I would just work until, X amount of the things got done, but it was never ending. And so I think a big part of staying organized for me now is setting like, these are the things that I want to get done this week. And a kind of flexible timeline of like, this is what I plan to do on Monday and Tuesday and like for each day of the week. And then like, once those are done, I'm done. And I go and like do something else like outside of my business, because if you don't put those kind of boundaries, then it's so easy for your work to just take over your life.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And even though I am one of those people that has a small window of time, so like I'm forced to fit everything in that window, that definitely took a while for me to figure out like, okay, how much can I book or schedule that will properly fit into this amount of time? So if you are just used to working like an infinite amount, then you still have to figure out, okay, how much can I realistically fit in a week so that I can have those check boxes or like feel like you're done at some point. So it's definitely such a learning curve, and it's such a process, because we don't want to be taking on more than we can handle, which is also key, I think. But I love that, like having like an actual like finished point for the day. Do you find yourself getting your work done any faster with that?
There's definitely a learning curve, and it's definitely not a perfect system, but I do find that when I have other things when I put other things outside my business on my schedule, it helps me to work faster. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, I had visitors in town. And so during that week, I had really like only 2 or 3 hours a day that I could work. And then I was, out doing things. And that week was like the epiphany for me of like, wow, this is what people mean when they say when they have kids and they have limits on their schedule, they're more productive. And so since then I've been scheduling like, okay, I go to the gym at 2 p.m. And so I need to get this, and this done before so that I can like meet that, 2 p.m. appointment, even though it's a made up appointment to go to the gym. That I think has helped me to be more productive in those time periods, because I've got like I have to finish before this point because of this thing.
And then you could, I mean, in theory, then you could be done for the day. Like if you've really trained yourself well and you've fit everything into that 2 o'clock window, go to the gym, maybe one more email swipe, but then you could be done for the day. Like, how good does that feel?
Yeah, exactly. I'm working toward that. That's kind of the idea, but of course, nothing is perfect in it's messy. Like entrepreneurship is messy. And so that's kind of the goal, to get to that, like, this is the cutoff point. This is when I stop. But yeah, that doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, definitely. And I try to look at it like in my zone of genius time. So like my allotted time where my kids are in school, like that is my meat and potatoes. That's my zone of genius. But of course, there's going to be times outside of that where I've got to do emails or I've got to do editing, like things that are a little bit lower brain power. I allow myself to work outside that box, but all of my like absolute creativity stuff has to happen within that container.
Oh yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And it's so important to protect that time, like to protect your creative time as like sacred almost. Like, this is my time when I do the creative things, and you have to protect it with whether it's social media or whatever distractions there are, to like make sure that creative time actually happens.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I used to do the opposite. So I used to think I had to prioritize like what was most important. So like most important would be, I have a client waiting on this, so this has to get done first. So I would take up all of that time when my kids were at school just doing client work, which, by this point, 6 years later, like that takes minimal brain power for me. And then I would try to say, okay, well, when they're napping in the afternoon, that's when I'll write content, or that's when I'll work on my email list or whatever, like the business building things. And they would never get done because I just simply wouldn't have the brain power by that time of day. So I swapped it, and now I do my most, creative stuff when I have, the most white space, and then I can multitask later in the day with like my low brain power activities. And like that has been so pivotal for my business because I was so stuck for so long just doing client work, just doing client work. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could help people make one change, like don't give up on growing your business just because you have a ton of client work, because you can blink and 2 years has gone by and you haven't grown, you've just maintained.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely struggled with that too, like prioritizing, this client project has a deadline. And so this is the most urgent thing. But really, your client work is going to get done. I think most of us are, responsible entrepreneurs who care about like making sure that our clients have a good experience. And it's not like we're just going to forget to do our client work, if we do our kind of business building stuff first. But when you flip it around, it's so easy to say, when it's your thing, like it's your business, that gets pushed to the back burner. So I think it's important to keep that in perspective. Like if you work on your business first, that doesn't mean that like you're going to forget about your client work and it's not going to happen. Like it is going to get done and it's all going to be fine. But you definitely have to protect that time when you're working on your business.
Yeah, definitely. And it didn't slow down my turnaround time at all. Like, and I was amazed. I was like, gosh, all this time I've been thinking that I had to prioritize in this way, and it hasn't even changed. And I'm getting so much more done on the other side. So I love that conversation. I know we didn't plan that out, but I just love where that goes.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so I'm really excited about your templates. Tell us again how people can find you, your website and your Instagram.
Yeah, so my website is ellirunkles.com. And if you want to grab that sales page checklist, that's ellirunkles.com/checklist. And then I'm also on Instagram at Elli Runkles, and that's where I hang out the most. So I'd love to connect with you guys over there.
Yay. I know I love following your stories. You always have like the captions. So when I don't have the volume on, I'm like, oh, I can still follow along.
It's really interesting. I actually have a client who is deaf, and she's like kind of opened my eyes so much about just about accessibility and things like that I wouldn't have thought about at all. And so she is the one who introduced me to those like captioned video things, which to me, I was like, this is awesome. Like now I don't have to type out on the screen like what I'm talking about in the videos or things like that. But then, yeah, it makes it more accessible to people that you may not have even thought about, might not be able to listen to your content. So yeah, just another food for thought, I guess.
Yeah. And I find myself sometimes watching those longer because they maintain the speed of the actual story, where like sometimes when people are paraphrasing, I'm just kind of reading their quick little like tidbits, which probably is leaving out a lot. I know when I caption stuff, like I leave out a lot versus what I'm actually saying.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if anybody's interested, the app that I use for that, it's called Clip-O-Matic, and it's an iPhone app that I think it costs like $5 or something, but I'm not sponsored at all. But that's what I use to capture my videos if anybody's interested in that.
Clip-O-Matic, so cool. Is it pretty user-friendly to get going?
Yeah, it's really, really easy to use. You just record your videos like you would on Instagram and then upload them to Instagram. And they're really easy. You can edit those captions and things like that too. So it's really easy.
That's awesome. See, another great tip. Okay. So what's coming up next for you? Like what's going on in your business?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm kind of in that pivoting mode to moving toward helping more DIY copy, people who are DIYing their copy, moving into more of an educating stage of my business rather than just doing the one-on-one client work. And so I have a new program that's called Copywriter on Call that I've been beta testing with some clients, and I'm getting ready to like fully launch that. And it's a community where I do trainings and like group Q&A calls, but then also like everyone in that program also gets like one-on-one support from me as well. So like I'm going in and like looking at their Google Docs and giving tips and things like that so that they can get some copywriting support without having to like hire a copywriter outright. And so that's kind of the direction that my business is moving. And yeah, I've just lots of kind of promotion work and things to kind of get that new program off the ground is like what has been my main focus in my business recently.
I love that. So is it a monthly membership or does it have a start and an end date?
No, it's a monthly membership and people can come and go. They can I've had people come and just sign up for like 1 month when they're like really working heavily on, making updates to their copy. And then I have other people who've been in for, well, it's only been going for a few months, but that have been using it continuously for like their monthly content and copy that they're writing every month.
That's awesome. What a great service. And I feel like there's totally a need for that too, because, actually hiring that one-on-one copywriter can get really, really expensive.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I've found within, our industry. But as a copywriter, it's kind of like a big jump of, there are like the completely DIY, like buy the template and then completely do it on your own. Or there's the hire a copywriter outright. And there's nothing really like in the middle for people who are kind of, they want more support than just the buy the template and that's it. But then they're not quite ready for the copywriter outright. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping to serve with this new service.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. Yay. Okay, cool. So, and they can find out about that program on your website as well. And also if they sign up for the checklist, I'm sure that they'll hear about it too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you can find that on my website too, ellirunkles.com. And it's Copywriter on Call is the name of that service.
That is exciting. I'll be excited to hear how that goes. Okay, awesome. And then, as I mentioned in the intro, Elli is going to be joining us in the Shine Light Society on May 21st for a workshop where we're going to dig deeper on all of this juicy copy information. So thank you so much for coming today. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything else coming up for you?
I think that's all. I'm really looking forward to our chat in a couple of weeks in the Shine the Light Society. I'm really excited to dig a little bit deeper with all of this.
Yes, and we'll be on Zoom, so it'll be face-to-face. You'll get to meet everybody. It'll be so fun. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, and I will be talking to you very soon.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right, you guys, that wraps up our episode today with Miss Elli Runkles. Isn't she so fun? I love learning all things copy because it's such a struggle for me. I hope that you guys will go pay her a visit. Tell her hi on Instagram. Tell her that you appreciate this episode. Remember, we constantly talk about that superpower that we all have to make somebody's day. So I'm going to challenge you to go out in the world today and tell someone that they're doing a good job. Tell someone that they're inspiring you. It is a little thing that goes a long way. And of course, we appreciate any tags, shares, reviews for this podcast. I absolutely love showing up here for you guys. And don't forget that Elli is actually our guest speaker this month inside my memberships. So if you are in the Shine the Light Society or the Hampton Roads Creative Network, you are going to be having exclusive access to Elli on May 21st this month. I'm so excited about it. And the doors are opening for the Shine the Light Society on May 24th. So if you are going to just miss her workshop and you want to join, you will actually have access to that replay if you decide to join the Shine the Light Society. And I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, but we are bringing back the free 5-day challenge, the Shine the Light Challenge. This is our third time doing this challenge. I'm so pumped about it. It's going to be the biggest and the best yet. I have already opened the doors to that free Facebook group. It's Facebook groups / Shine the Light Challenge, EHP Shine the Light Challenge, I believe. We're going to put all this stuff for you in the show notes. You can find that at elizabethhensonphotos.com/34. For episode 34, elizabethhensonphotos.com/34. And that way you can get all of Elli's links. You can get access to the free challenge, and I'll put a reminder in there about getting access to her hands-on workshop where we're going to be digging even deeper. Also, my new website that I have mentioned on here, elizabethhenson.co, is finally live. You can access the podcast from that as well, elizabethhenson.co. And it still kind of links to our old show notes. We'll be migrating those eventually, but it's a work in progress. But I'm excited to share it with the world, excited, nervous, all the things. But so far the feedback has been really good. I so appreciate you guys tuning in with me, and I will see you soon. Have the best day. Thank you, Elli. Go visit her on Instagram, say hi, and I'll talk to you guys later.